killed while watching TV in her own home. The case of Albert Ojwang, the case of Bridgit Njoki more recently. And we must get to that point where we demand and consistently demand accountability for all these crimes that have been meted against the people of Kenya. And hence our plea that we expect IPOA to do its work, to implement its mandate, and ensure that the violating police officers are actually brought to book. Of course, we have made other demands to other agencies who are also responsible for ensuring accountability of these violations that we continue to see, because they must stop. And our concern is, if we don't hold people accountable for these violations, they will continue. But Kenyans must demand that these people are actually held accountable for these crimes.
To condemn the killings, that the families of people like Bridgit Njoki, like Julia, that all of these families do not feel that they have been left behind, that they are to shoulder the costs of postmortems, to shoulder the costs of funeral expenses, and really not to have any way forward in terms of justice and accountability. So we must continue to rise and speak on these issues. As the Police Reforms Working Group, we are calling for an immediate waiver on all the medical bills, the post-mortem fees, and also the state to provide funeral support for all the family members of protesters that have died in the Saba Saba rallies and the one that was there before. On the issues of charges of terrorism, terrorism is probably our most serious crime. It is at the level of treason. It is a charge that essentially establishes or attempts to establish guilt that persons or people or organizations have deliberately chosen to bring down a validly elected state. It is very important at this time that both the investigating agencies and the prosecuting agencies essentially be very careful with the charging of suspects. It is our view that in the cases of at least 30 suspects who were initially charged with arson and then it was moved to terrorism, that these cases will be drawn out. They will be subjected to a higher threshold of evidence. As we know from the terrorism cases related to Dusit or the Garissa University, these are not short cases. They are cases that involve a long period of time. And therefore, the use of the interagency guidelines on investigation and prosecution of terrorism that the ODPP themselves have put forward and were endorsed by several agencies, that these guidelines have to be applied very strictly alongside the decision to charge.